Hi everyone, thanks so much for joining with us. My name is Andrew and I'm a pastor here at Bethany. And today what I want to talk about is something that I think might be one of the most important things to who we are here as a church. That without this, Bethany wouldn't be the church that it is today. And that's our core values. Now that might sound kind of boring, but I actually think it's incredibly important and also incredibly exciting actually, because this is about who we are. Because honestly, what separates different churches from one another often isn't just theology, but most often actually it's values, it's DNA, it's your posture. That when it comes to church, so many people agree on so much, but what makes churches feel different and act differently is that they have different values that drive their decisions. This is why it's so important for us to have clearly outlined our values and our DNA, because this tells us how we're gonna live out our beliefs, how are we gonna live out our convictions, how are we gonna live out our faith. And here at Bethany, we have three real values that shape everything and ground us. These really guide our decisions and they direct all that we do. And we only have three because if you start to have more than that, they really actually stop shaping things. And so what we value here are three things. They are grace, vulnerability, and discipleship. And that's what I want to talk a little bit about with you here today. And so I want to begin by talking about grace. And I want to begin talking about grace because when it comes to grace, this is an absolutely key and crucial value for us here, that we are a grace-first church. That what this means is that we not only prioritize grace, we give grace, we use grace to guide each decision. And by grace, what we mean really specifically is giving to people mercy, hope, love, and acceptance beyond what any one of us deserve. And the reason we do this is because God is a grace-first God. That God doesn't give to us what we deserve. Actually, he gives to us what we could never earn. That is actually salvation. That's what it's all about. So the reason that we here will prioritize grace and give grace and start with grace and always be grounded in grace is because this gets at the very heart of God. That while we were still sinners, what does the text tell us? That Christ died for us. So while some places might prioritize wrath, judgment, or condemnation, biblically, we believe that's actually incorrect. That the first thing that we need to foreground is actually God's grace. That right now, here's the truth theologically of you and for me. That right now, we are only actually breathing because of the grace of God. This is what Paul says in Colossians 1, that we are all held together by Christ. Added to that fact is actually that salvation from sin is actually only happening because of God's first activity, because of his initiative, because of his grace. That as I said already, that when Paul puts it this way, that while we were still sinners, that's when Christ came for us. That when we were still broken and far away, Jesus came to the earth, he welcomed us, he included us, he saved us from sin. That's all grace. And so what really grace is about biblically is that God is always taking the initiative and the first step and always taking the first action. And then that's what we want to do here for others. We want to give grace. We want to share grace. We want to let grace be the motivator for change because it is the motivator on change. That grace is the only thing that actually saves or changes anyone. That's what we find out because of Jesus. Because of his actions and his grace, we are saved. So here, if you want to know, my heart is that I will live and die on giving grace, because that's what Jesus did. And that's what we're called to as well. And so to make this a little bit more, not just theological, but personal, we want to hear from someone share a story of grace and how grace can actually change your life.
Hi, my name is Jessica. My husband Chris and I have been going to Bethany for about 10 years. Together we homeschool our 4 kids, age 10, 8, 7, and 6. And I work as a paramedic and my husband Chris works as a firefighter. My husband Chris and I first started to come to Bethany. We first became new parents, so I decided to go to mom's group. And becoming a parent for me was really challenging. I liked everything in control and definitely can't have that with kids. I had really high expectations and I was a really selfish person. And besides that, I already struggled with things like anxiety, an eating disorder, and alcohol abuse. So I was feeling pretty low and I felt pretty much like a failure most of the time. And as I walked into the moms group, just time and time again, the leaders and the people just felt really comfortable and safe place for me. I began to be connected. I could tell my story little bits by bits. And I realized that I wasn't alone, that there was other women that struggled with similar things as me. So I was just so thankful for that. Being a failure to me was kind of like a common thread in my life. I grew up feeling like I needed to be a certain type of person, and I felt like I never measured up to that. And so then becoming a mom, I had all these ideas and expectations on myself of what I should look like, what I should be like, and I struggled with perfectionism. And then being in mom's group and hearing other people talk about their stories, it was like the same thing. And so we bonded together in just that space of vulnerability and just brokenness, to know that we couldn't be that kind of person that we had set up for ourselves, or society even sets up. And so we had to really just recognize that we needed God. We had to go to Jesus, God, all the time, just to help us in our daily experiences as a parent, to be the loving, kind, patient mom that we all wanted to be. So as I got comfortable in mom's group, that sort of led me into being able to try out Celebrate Recovery. And it was really through Celebrate Recovery that I experienced the deepest part of my healing. Again, walking through those doors was really challenging in the sense of I felt really ashamed of myself. I had been a Christian my whole life, and I felt like I shouldn't be struggling with the habitual sins that I was struggling with. I felt like I should trust God more or have more faith, and maybe that would have helped me through, but it just never seemed to work. I was losing hope, and as I came into the space of Celebrate Recovery, again, I found the same thing. Like, everybody was so kind and loving and supportive to me. I never felt like a failure. I never felt condemned one time. I would share my stories and others would share their stories. And again, I felt connected to these people, and it was like a little piece of heaven for me. We were all open, honest, and vulnerable, and we felt God's love through God Himself and each other as we just accepted each other for who we were and able to worship God in that place. So I've been a pretty critical and judgmental type of person, and honestly, I still struggle with it. Usually it's when I'm looking to the world for my worth and value, or I'm believing lies about myself or other people. But my friends and God usually encourage me and remind me that I'm accepted no matter what I do and no matter what I don't do. So to me, that is so powerful. Grace is so powerful. And literally, the Greek word for grace means the loving kindness that God exerts upon human souls and turns them to Christ, keeps them, strengthens them, increases them in Christian faith, knowledge, affection, and kindles us to exercise Christian virtues. I love definitions. I'm a geek too, a little. But I just think, like, imagine if we as a body could do that for other people coming in through these doors, that they could feel that type of grace. It would be amazing. So I've always been a really self-conscious, anxious person in social settings, and I've really just stuck to myself most of the time. I wouldn't really speak to anybody unless someone spoke to me. Never really felt like my opinion was valuable. But as I've been in community with this church and just my friends, I've felt God's love, and that's changed me completely. So I've gained self-confidence, and now I want to be that person to people coming into this church. I want to show them the love. I want them to be seen. I want them to know that they're valuable. I want them to know that God loves them so much, and that there's nothing that you can be that God won't love you. And I hope that every single person in this church would be like that to you too.
And the heartbeat of our next value, discipleship, is really the fact that we are included in God's family through grace, but then actually the work of following Christ does take effort. That Christ gives us a new heart, a new desires, and new directions, but then we need to actually follow Him in that direction. That, as Jesus says Himself, we need to pick up our cross and follow Him. That's His language. And what this is meant by is then this word discipleship. That we are not just consumers of grace, we are not just convenient Christians, we are followers of Christ who then do the hard work of following the example of Jesus in every single circumstance of our life. That's our calling. That when it comes to our faith, this is not to be worked out just in beliefs, but in actions. This is what discipleship is all about. That we value putting the effort and sacrifice and time to be disciples of Jesus, not just religious consumers. So practically what this means then is when Jesus calls us to do something, we take that seriously. That means we work hard to love our enemies. That means that we work hard to practice forgiveness. That means that we work hard, honestly, to get rid of judgment, sin, and junk from our lives. Because truthfully, the path of Jesus isn't always easy and it's smooth, and it certainly isn't always convenient. But what our world needs is people who take the calling of Jesus Christ so seriously. People who take Jesus' commands to obey him, to sacrifice for others, and to live generously, and to love everyone, to put this stuff into practice. And if you've ever tried that, you know that love is hard work, that love and grace are not cheap, that they cost Jesus his life. And living life in this way, it will cost us something as well. But that is the nature of discipleship, and that is what we are about here. That is what we are committed to at Bethany, doing the hard and necessary things to follow Jesus. Because not only does the world around us need that, but we need that as well. We need to live life in the way of Jesus. And that's what discipleship as a value is all about. So now let's hear from another person who's a part of our family here to share their journey of discipleship and the importance of following Jesus even in the hard stuff together.
So thanks so much for sitting down with me today. Talked a little bit about what it's like to volunteer at Bethany and kind of how our values play out within the ministries in our church. So why don't you go ahead and share a little bit, just introduce yourself, tell everybody who you are, how long you've been at Bethany, and kind of where you serve.
Yeah, thanks for having me. My name's Aiden. I've been a youth leader for, I guess, 4-ish years now. But I've been in Bethany since 2008 when me and my family moved here. Been here ever since.
So when you were a student in kind of middle school and high school, you attended BYN. So why did you start going to BYN? And specifically, like, what role did the youth leaders that you had back then, what role did they play in your life?
So I first started BYN because like my dad worked at the church at the very time. We were very involved sort of family-wise. And so I guess I had a significant sort of investment in the church. And so it just made sense for me to go and continue learning about God and spending time in the church. My youth leaders were great. They showed a lot of caring, and it meant a lot to me to see them spend a lot of time through their busy days. And you don't really see that when you're young, but now that I'm working full-time and stuff, it takes effort to come out. And, you know, especially with hindsight, I really appreciate the time that they spent and the effort they put into me when I was so young. It shows that, you know, there's people not just in your family, but there's other people out there that care for your well-being and want to see you grow and be a better person. And so I think that's really valuable for people of that age, and it meant so much to me growing up.
That's so good. I remember when I was in youth, one of my youth leaders took all of us out on a weekday during our school lunch break for lunch. And I was like, at the time I was like, oh, that's really cool. But now I'm like, I have no idea if I could ever pull off the time to do something like that, right? Like,
that's true.
It's just, you get outside, but you're like, no, they did the hard stuff. Like,
yeah.
They really invested.
Yeah, you might have used a vacation day for that, man.
Yeah.
It's not as easy as it seems when you're so young.
So good. What difference did it make in your life as a student to have leaders who intentionally build into you?
For me, like I said, it meant a lot. Like, to have people sort of invest and kind of guide me through sort of some things I might be struggling with. Like, it's a very hard time being a youth, trying to figure out who you are, where you want to go, what you want to become. Just to have sort of this re-encouragement and this investment at that time, and then to help guide you through some of these tough questions, because you really do start to deal with some big questions. To have like another person guide you through that and guide you through that the lens of Jesus, I think is really important, especially when you've got so many exterior sort of voices telling you what's cool or what you should do or what might be good or right, but then to have sort of, I guess, another stable voice coming from like the heart of God or from that place, I think is really important to kind of try and ground yourself as you're asking such important questions.
So you went through youth, came out the other side. Why did you decide to turn around and start volunteering within the youth ministry? Why did you want to become a youth leader?
Yeah, I spent every year I could in youth, and so I spent so much time being very comfortable in this space that when I graduated, it was like, okay, I need to do something to be more active in the church. I should volunteer. What would make the most sense? And because I spent so much time and energy there, and experiencing what the leaders had given to me, I think it just made sense for me to want to give that back. And so I think just trying to be someone for someone else that someone gave to me when I was growing up was very meaningful. And I want to hopefully just help give some of these kids just some hope and some, I guess, groundedness. And I want to help them know that there are other people that care in this world, meet them sort of where they're at, whether it's just person to person or if to help them see God's light and his love.
That's so cool because I love what you said there. You just want to be someone for someone, right? And to just be there for just open, loving support and care. And it's cool because it's like that's what your youth leaders were to you, right? So it's so cool for you to be able to take that experience and use that in your mindset as you serve within youth. We're talking about discipleship. And that's one of our core values at Bethany, is our 3R: grace, vulnerability, and discipleship. So what does discipleship mean to you, and why do you think it's important for that to be part of kind of the fabric of who we are as a church?
Discipleship to me means to have someone try and bring out that will that God has for us and to sort of work on or help us work through what God is already working in us and to sort of help us and guide us to try and become the best person we can. I think discipleship is extremely important for Bethany. I think that having it as a core value is very important. The strongest way we can grow as Christians is in community. So I think to, in a very practical way, show God's love and mercy and grace through human relationships is super important. As iron sharpens iron, we should help each other grow.
That's so good, and I think it's just so cool to hear a little bit about how you're forming and shaping and discipling the students that are here at Bethany today. I can't wait to sit down with one of them someday when they talk about how you discipled them and they want to do the same for other students. And as we talk about this, I think it's just incredibly exciting. Not only that discipleship is a core value for us as a church, and forming people in the likeness and the image of God is so important, but also it also means we get to interact and have incredible volunteers like yourself and other people who are joining our team. So thank you so much for sitting down and just sharing a little bit about where you're at and what you do here at Bethany with me today.
Well, thank you very much for having me. It's been a real pleasure.
So you might be wondering then, how does vulnerability fit into these core values? And sometimes vulnerability can seem both scary and uncomfortable, but what we believe here is this, is that vulnerability is crucial when it comes to practicing grace and discipleship. that really what vulnerability is. It's all about intimacy and connection and relationships. And relationships can't function without vulnerability. You need honest, intentional caring for there to actually be relationships. And relationships matter so much that we expect to practice them with vulnerability then. That when it comes to our relationships together, we want them to be real, we want them to be authentic, and we even want them to be a little bit messy. We don't want to shy away from the hard stuff, and vulnerability as a core value gets at all of that. That we value relationships so much that we're going to risk opening up. We're going to risk sharing what's really on our hearts. We're going to risk really engaging in relationships and throwing out masks and all of that junk, because that's where Jesus is actually found and encountered. He's found and encountered within relationships. And the reason this matters so deeply to us is because vulnerability actually connects us with how God intended the world, creation, and relationships to function. That what we see in Genesis is that before there was ever sin, before there was no shame, there was actually true vulnerability. There was this true sharing. There was this true opening up about emotions, feelings, our inner worlds to one another. And so when we practice true vulnerability, even though it can be hard and even though it can be messy, what we are doing is we're regaining life as it was intended from God for us to live. We are actually regaining what true community is meant to be like. So we value vulnerability so much that we're going to work hard to have honest, open, authentic relationships with one another, so that then we can start to live now how we will live for eternity with vulnerability together. So now let's hear from Marie about how risking vulnerability really changed her life.
Hey, I'm Laura Humphreys. I'm the Support and Recovery Ministry Leader here at Bethany, and I am so thankful to be joined by Marie Brady, one of our dedicated leaders here at Bethany. Marie, maybe you could tell us a little bit more about yourself and how you ended up here at Bethany.
Hi, everyone. I have been attending Bethany for 7 or 8 years, and I have 13 siblings, and I'm in the middle of all those siblings.
Wow, what a busy household. Marie, how do you experience vulnerability here at Bethany?
I experience vulnerability in Celebrate Recovery and Kids Zone. I'm leader in both. In Celebrate Recovery, I do step study with the women, and they share and show tremendous vulnerability, and we get together every week and we answer questions and read about God, and yet we deal with our hurts, habits, and hang-ups.
Marie, how does vulnerability in others impact your journey here at Bethany?
I experience vulnerability in Kids Zone and in Celebrate Recovery. In Kids Zone, the children open up their hearts and they tell me about their lives, and in Celebrate Recovery, I tell other women and men about Jesus and about how he changed my life. When I first came to Bethany, I was very angry and I hated everyone, including God. I had a trauma past, and it was hard to deal with it. But as I came to Bethany, I was determined to come every week, that God is going to change my life. So I came every week to Bethany and every week to Celebrate Recovery. And in God's time, my past does not dictate my future now.
Yeah, I'm very fortunate to get to journey with Marie through part of your recovery for the last year and a half, and even the last year and a half, seeing the vulnerability, seeing Marie share her vulnerability, and others then share as well, openly share as well, and to see the bonds that you've created is really a beautiful thing. What difference does it make to you when other leaders and volunteers serve with vulnerability?
It makes a difference to me, because it makes others feel like they're not alone, that other people do struggle too. I did that when I signed up for Sunday school. I showed vulnerability with the children, and in response to that, I showed them Jesus' love, and that I didn't get that as a child, so I wanted to go into Sunday school to show them, if they're not getting it at home, somebody loves them.
Wow, thanks, Marie. What an impact you have on those kids on Sunday mornings and throughout the week. We see that on Friday nights at CR, right? People come through our doors in pain or hurting, and they're just able to walk through those doors and be who they are, right? And I think that we create that culture on Sunday as well. And you've experienced that, right, Marie?
Yes, I have.
Have you noticed anything about your interactions when you share with vulnerability at Bethany?
With Celebrate Recovery, I share vulnerability by telling my story to other women and men, and I get to listen to them talk a little bit about themselves, and them to feel comfortable. They have to feel comfortable to be able to come every week and know that they're not alone, that we are here for them. And if I did it, anybody can do it. It's not easy, but with God's help, you can do anything. All things are possible.
I love the piece about trying to make people feel comfortable, and that's such an important element of being vulnerable, especially in Celebrate Recovery, but also in kids ministry, is making kids know that it's okay to be different, and this is a place where you can feel safe. How do you seek and lead with vulnerability in the areas you serve?
It creates a deep relationship with my CR family, and in Kids Zone, it's amazing on Sunday mornings when the kids come running into my class and they're coming for a hug, and they're calling me by name now, and these are 2- and 3-year-olds.
Yeah.
And it's so beautiful to see. And then I see, when I come out in the foyer, I see children that come and call me by name that I used to teach. And I see how God is doing amazing work in their lives and how much they love Jesus.
I can attest to that, having 2 daughters who have had Miss Marie as a Sunday school teacher, and if you as a parent have also experienced that, the kids just flock to Marie. She's like the Pied Piper on Sunday mornings with all these kids following her, just because she just loves them and just shows them the love of Jesus. What does the value of vulnerability mean to you?
The value of vulnerability means we are children of God, and we can share honestly with each other and know we are loved, no matter unconditionally. I don't pass judgments on anyone. As a leader at Bethany, I am thankful to God that He allows me to serve, and He allows me to have beautiful relationships with people at Bethany and Celebrate Recovery. We can change the world with Jesus, and only Jesus, by showing our true selves and being who we are, because that's what it's about. It's about telling people what Jesus can do in their lives. If all they have to do is show a little vulnerability and a little faith, and God will do the rest.
Thanks so much for joining me, Marie, and sharing a bit of who you are and what it means to you to serve here at Bethany. I'm grateful to be a part of your journey, and I can't wait to see what the future holds for you here at Bethany.
Thank you for having me.
So before we move on, I just want to emphasize that honestly, this matters so very much for us, that our values shape and define everything. This is how we lead. This is our posture. This is how we make decisions. And even if I can be a little bit bold and clear on this, this is also what we expect from our leaders, our volunteers, and our partners, that we expect grace to be shown to one another. We expect that we would take seriously the hard work of following Jesus, and we expect for vulnerability and real relationships, because it's only with one another that we actually encounter Jesus and experience the kingdom of God that he has for each and every one of us. So this is who we are. And so we are so glad that you want to join with us in changing the world starting here in Niagara, because our world needs changing. And the way we are going to do that is by really grounding ourselves in grace, vulnerability, and discipleship.